This Week in Agriculture. I'm a producer and host, Christopher Holder. This Week in Agriculture is a presentation of the Ministry of Agriculture's Communications Unit. On this week's presentation, we focus on the end-of-crop wrap for the second crop of 2019, and we bring to you a holistic look at rice production in Guyana over the past year. We do some comparisons about this crop, last crop, the last year, and of course, in looking at the production figures for this entire year, we see that it is at an all-time, well, a 4-year high, almost matching the high of 2015 when production was, a record was established. So on this week's presentation, we look at the performance of our farmers, we look at exports, and we look at the gross income earned by our farmers through the sale of paddy to millers. This Week in Agriculture is produced for television by Matrix Video Productions and Advertising based in East Berbice. We will be back after these messages.
The management of the MMA ADA wishes to remind members of the public that dumping of garbage along the road shoulders of the main access road to the MMA lands is an illegal practice and will not be condoned. The MMA has noted with alarm that the practice of dumping garbage alongside the roads at night has been increasing in frequency. Not only does it make for an eyesore, the garbage has been getting into the drainage and irrigation channels, causing blockage to the free flow of water. The authority is warning that its rangers have been put on notice and will be on the lookout for persons engaging in this practice. Persons caught will be handed over to the police for charges to be filed. A message from the MMA ADA, Ministry of Agriculture.
The Guyana Rice Development Board is reminding all farmers that an integrated pest management program is the best way to ensure a successful, high-yielding crop. Integrated Pest Management, or IPM, is the use of several compatible control strategies to suppress a pest. IPM is for the management of all insect pests and snails or even weeds, whether it's early season, mid-season, or late season. This program begins at land preparation and involves the following key steps. After proper tillage, leave land exposed to sun for a few days to allow for pests in the soil to be exposed to natural predators, as well as to allow for degradation of any debris there. Proper land leveling should also be ensured. Farmers should adopt uniform times of sowing. Sowing en bloc during the April, May, and November-December periods of the year. All farmers should treat their seed before sowing, providing insect pest protection to the young rice plants for up to 30 days. Ensure proper water management for the first 40 days of the crop. Ensure effective monitoring of the crop from the vegetative stage for the presence of paddy bugs or other pests. This will aid the farmer in determining the right time to apply the appropriate insecticide to kill the paddy bugs. A message from the Guyana Rice Development Board, Ministry of Agriculture.
Here's an important notice. Do you know that it is illegal to import, store, distribute, sell, and purchase antibiotics without a license or prescription, as the case may be? According to the Antibiotic Act of 1952, owners of livestock and other animals are not permitted to purchase and use antibiotics unless prescribed by a veterinarian. It should be noted that the misuse of antibiotics could result in the development of resistance to the very antibiotics, which in turn will pose health risk to the animal and to humans. The GLDA advises that farmers should not administer antibiotics to animals unless prescribed by a veterinarian. Non-compliance with this act will result in fines and imprisonment. A message from the Ghana Livestock Development Authority, Ministry of Agriculture.
This is what a responsible, health-conscious person should be wearing when using agrochemicals on the farm. Wearing the proper protective equipment guards users of pesticides and other harmful chemicals from the cumulative effects of consistent exposure over a period of time. In the short term, exposure can result in skin or eye irritation, rashes, burns, respiratory problems, etc. Long-term results of exposure to harmful chemicals include certain types of cancers, birth defects, etc. Ensure you wear the proper protective equipment when applying pesticides. A message from the Pesticides and Toxic Chemicals Control Board, Ministry of Agriculture. Guyana's rice industry is firmly set on a path of expansion and increasing profitability, with the national average inching closer to the 40 bags per acre mark. Harvesting of the second crop of 2019 is just about completed, with 98% already harvested. With the exception of Region 2, all the rice-growing regions have recorded increased hectares under cultivation, and again with the exception of Region 2 reporting increased yields per acre. Figures released by the Guyana Rice Development Board indicate that this last crop of 2019 has been an exceptionally good one, both in terms of the amount and quality of paddy harvested, but also the earnings derived by farmers from the sale of paddy to millers across the country. Giving an overview of the second crop production, GRDB General Manager Nizam Hassan said the numbers indicate that coupled with the first crop production, Guyana's rice farmers have realized a 4-year high of more than 1 million tons of paddy.
Paddy production for the second crop of 2019 is ending on a very positive note, as it is with 98% of the crop harvested. 518,000 tons of paddy has been harvested. This, added with the 525,000 tons harvested for the first crop of 2019, we will be ending paddy production for 2019 at a 4-year all-time high. It's over 1 million tons of paddy that have been harvested, and whilst we wait on the other 2% to be harvested, we will come as close as, if not surpass, that high figure in 2015, where we had over 1,058,000 tons of paddy.
As was the case in successive crops going back 2 years, farmers have been expanding the lands they cultivate as paddy prices stabilize and, as was the case this last crop, moved upwards, with some farmers getting as much as $3,100 per bag. This increase in lands cultivated has resulted in the GRDB having to revise upwards its crop projections for both the first and second crops this year.
Second crop paddy production was targeted at 88,500 hectares. But because of the confidence that rice farmers have in the industry, and because of the market situations that presented themselves, we had to revise our production target, and we saw the production going up to over 90,000 hectares. This, of course, resulted, are some of the reasons for higher production figures and that we are seeing manifesting itself. But notwithstanding, there were some challenges that farmers faced. The recent overtopping or the intrusion of the saltwater in the Joho Bloom Hall area, that affected some acreages. As a matter of fact, 1,000 acres of rice land have been inundated with the saltwater. And of course, this had an impact in terms of the paddy production.
The second crop of 2019 was also remarkable because of the fact that it is usually the lesser of the two crops, that is, in terms of land cultivated and the amount of paddy harvested. This was, however, not the case this time around. The exception of Region 2, all of the rice-growing regions have shown increased production and productivity, with Region 6 being the standout region with a record-breaking production effort.
Second crop production is usually lower than first crop production. But however, in the second crop of 2019, we saw the acreages being sown being higher than that of the first crop. Like I mentioned earlier, over 90,000 hectares were sown compared to the 88,000 that were sown in the first crop. In all the regions, we saw increases in production for the second crop of 2019, except for Region 2. Region 2, they started late. Usually the Region 2 is usually the region that will start earlier, but because of some challenges with the supply of water, primarily with the supply of water, their production started a little later. So that was the only region for which the acreage sown in the second crop was lower than that of the first crop. But notwithstanding, all the other regions had increases in the acreage sown. In Region 3, In the first crop, we did 7,600 hectares. For the second crop is almost 8,700 hectares. In region 4, 3,600 hectares were done in the first crop. Almost 3,800 hectares were done in the second crop. For region 5, 39,900 hectares were done. It's compared to almost 41,000 hectares for the second crop. And region 6, that region really produced at an all-time high. In the second crop, it was 23,700 hectares. Sorry, in the first crop, it was 23,700 hectares, as compared to almost 25,000 hectares of land that were sown for the second crop. And actually, at current figures that we have for the paddy that has been produced, over 2.4 million bags of paddy has already been harvested in Region 6. That itself is an all-time high for the amount of paddy that has ever been harvested in Region 6. Well, that essentially brings a summary of what the acreages that were under production were for the second crop.
At the commissioning of a multi-million-dollar soil lab in Region 6 recently, CEO of the Nan Persaud Group of Companies, Mr. Mohan Persaud, lauded the efforts of the Region 6 farmers. He said that based on reports, this last crop was the largest in the region's history and points to the growth and development of the local rice industry. Chairman of the Nan Persaud Group, Mr. Rajendra Persaud, expressed the view that there is the potential for the industry to increase yields by up to 30%, and given the right guidance and adherence to improved agronomic practices, farmers will realize significantly increased yields. He said the opening of the soil testing laboratory will allow farmers the wherewithal to determine the soil needs in terms of fertilizer and other ingredients to maximize yields. Speaking to the improved production and productivity of local rice farmers, GRDB's general manager said it is for the most part due to the re-energized research and extension program that has seen closer engagements between the extension staff of the GRDB and farmers all across the rice-growing belt.
During this second crop, we've been rolling out our revamped extension services. So much so, we've seen that farmers have adopted and are putting into practice and have put into practice the kinds of measures and advice that we've given them. And this, you will see and note, has manifested itself in the kinds of production or the production that we have seen. This will continue. Our officers will continue to be very active and very responsive in all of the areas. We have our friends in Legwan, in Wakanam, also down in Essequibo, and of course I couldn't forget Region 5 and Region 6 in the Blackbush area in Region 6, and in the many villages in Region 5. A lot of them have attended and participated in our field days, and there is where we get, like for myself, I get the immediate direct feedback from them, and I've heard of their responses and their gratitude when it comes to the kinds of services and the interactions that they have with their extension officers in the various regions. Now, going forward for 2020 and the other years, we're continuing to look at our extension services. We're just finalizing our revamped, revised agronomic practices. Is a whole list, a menu of measures, some of which we've spoken of earlier. We saw that being adopted in this second crop of 2019. As an example, I'm talking about seed treatment for paddy. That, of course, that itself has manifested because you get good crop establishment in the first 30 days and so on. For the first crop of 2020, which is what the production that is ongoing right now for 2020, you're already seeing that farmers are treating their seeds. Treated seeds, of course, will give you better crop establishment, less incidences of early season pests and those kinds of things. So it was really, really good to see that farmers have adopted these kinds of practices. This will continue. Not only the one-on-one sessions with the farmers and the interactions that our officers have, but also the farmer field schools and using demonstration plots with the farmers where we can bring farmers from within the community to see what a particular farmer is doing and to work with that farmer based on the advice that we give.
The second crop of 2019 was not without its challenges. At the beginning of the crop, the paddy bug presence in dams and in trenches and mares was ominous, with RPA President Lika Ramridge calling for aerial spraying by government to save an otherwise doomed crop. While aerial spraying was not authorized, the GRDB launched a massive national fumigation exercise against the paddy bugs, in which, through a collaborative effort with farmers in the affected regions, spraying of the dams and mares where paddy bugs were observed and reported was executed. This exercise was a huge success, as farmers were able to manage the bugs throughout the crop. The exercise by the GRDB in the early stages of the crop has been lauded by farmers in all the areas it was carried out. Ines Quibble, head of the Paddy Producers Association, Mr. Nath Ram, said the exercise was very successful and farmers are grateful.
Well, based on my observation and if we should go back to last crop, right? Last crop we know farmers got damages as much as 60, 70, 80% damages. But for this crop here, the average grade is around C, but most farmers get within A, B, C. Very few farmers would have got high percentage of damage. And because of the intervention of GRDB, this has had a significant impact on the rice sector in Region 2. They have been spraying the dams, the abandoned plots, and this have created a good impact in terms of controlling the paddy bugs. So from information I have had, this process will continue for the next few crops. And I think it's a good initiative that GRDB took.
In Region 5, Mr. Kemraj Prasad, known as Pandit, said his 50-acre cultivation is in an area known for having low yields due to high salt content in the soil. He disclosed that with the help of the extension staff of the GRDB, he has been realizing higher yields crop after crop.
With the help of GRDB and the extension officers, they make this place a success in terms of getting the yield, because it's because I'm close to the road. So they visit my field, and in my absence they tell me what to do. As you can see that the officer just tested the water there. What I did all that they told me to do with these land. I had to use more 625. I put 625 and potash. I use a little extra potash, and that contribute. I had very little bugs, and what I do, I sprayed a lot of spraying before the rice start flowering or bearing. I did like 2 spray before the rice start to bear, and I think that is what helped me. I use the Pronto and I use the 7-dose. That's all I use, Pronto and 7-dose. I use the Caribbean chemical Pronto. That's what I use.
In terms of yield now, tell me about that. How does this crop compare to the other crops and so on?
This was a very good crop for me after a very long time. I had 30, some of the field give 30 and some of the field give 35 bags. But in an overall, I may say like 34, 33 bags around that.
And this area is prone for low yields?
I lose rice here very often, but this is 2-3 crops now. I haven't that. I hadn't got after I got the black water to come here, so it really helps me a lot.
Mr. Prasad expressed the view that Guyana's rice industry is on the move and farmers are finally seeing their way.
It makes sense to plant rice. No rice farmer wants to stop plant. In 2015, we had a long dry weather, and all the farmers cursed God because no rainfall. That crop we had $1,800 a bag. Then I can't see that you're saying they're getting $1,800 a bag and they then want to stop plant. Rice, it's a backbone for our country, and I see rice will develop. For the time I'm planting rice at my age, 52 years, I never know a rice farmer want to stop plant rice. He always wants more. He always wants more, just like myself. Right? He always wants more. If I get more land, I will work. And I like to plant rice. I see rice, it could pay because I could do the calculation for you too and tell you how much it pays. I could even do it per acre and tell you how much it pays. It's paying, but you have to dedicate yourself. You have to have the passion and the love for what you want to do. Do not do something that you're working with a heavy mind and a heavy heart. Have the love. I tell my rice good morning when I come to my fields. It's alive. You understand? I often come and I touch this earth and give God thanks every morning.
This sentiment was also shared by Essequibo rice farmer Mr. Camardine of Reliance. He cultivated the GRDB 15 and harvested 42 bags per acre.
Well, to me, look like he got a little future now, you know. To me, look like he got a little future. At least we can see this crappy thing change up a little bit, right? In terms of buying and price and the payment.
Veteran rice farmer, rice miller, and businessman Mr. Imam Bacchus, also of Region 2, expressed confidence in the fortunes of the local rice industry. Referring to farmers of the Essequibo coast, Mr. Bacchus said that while the last two crops are bad for rice farmers due to the high damage caused by the paddy bug and by other factors beyond their control, they were still able to realize income because of their good agronomic practices.
I think overall the industry is doing well. In spite of the two previous crops of real bad paddy, there might have been individual specific areas that were worse hit. Fortunately for us in this area, we have some, I would say, really good farmers, and as a miller, we benefit from the quality they produce. But the industry, as I said, is profitable. To put it plain, I think the industry makes money, and the fact that if a man wants or he has a piece of land to rent. For example, my brother next door, he has 25 acres, but he doesn't work it, he rents it. And every crop he has been able to increase the rent he got from these farmers by 2,000 acres. Right now he's getting $25,000 an acre for an acre of land, per crop. And if that can happen, that tells you the industry is making money because people are not lunatics. To work to make a last crop after crop, So I think the industry is doing well.
Essequibo have also expressed satisfaction at the quality of the paddy supplied this last crop. One such miller is Mr. Anil Baksh of Imam Bacchus and Sons Rice Mills.
The quality that we received was pretty standard. It's the same quality we've been receiving for the last couple of crops, and we're kind of fortunate in this area. Because we have a very good weather, not right now, but and that helps with the dryness and the bug control and so on. We're comfortable in taking what we want. So when we grade the paddy, we can take exactly what we want, and the bad paddy we send off because we don't buy that much. But our quality was was standard. It was pretty standard, and I think a big part of that has to do with the farmers that come here, because the farmers that sell us always sell us, and they have a special, but they have a consistent routine that they do. So these guys go in the field, they're there every crop, and I think proper management and husbandry of that field, even if you have a crop with high bugs, reduces that damage a lot.
Guyana's rice exports continue to improve both in terms of quantity and value. GRDB General Manager Mr. Nizam Hassan gives us an overview of exports as at the end of October 2019.
Exports continue to happen, as you know. The rice is part of our blood or whole psyche. So For the period January to October, we've exported over 423,000 tons of rice and rice products compared to over 409,000 tons for the same period, January to October 2018. So January to October 2019, the exports are valued at 177 million US or 37 billion Guyana dollars, compared to 160 million US for January to October 2018, and that value was 33.5 billion Guyana dollars. This performance we have seen, notwithstanding a few of the countries, generally we've seen that all of the countries either remained stable or have increased. We've seen increases in countries in all the various blocks. But also, when we look at the commodities that were exported, we've exported more value-added products in 2019 as compared to 2018. So that, of course, resulted in less of the more commodity-type product, and I'm referring to paddy. In 2018, we did almost 135,000 tons of paddy. And thus far, for 2019, we just did 36,700 tons of paddy. But however, that equated well with the value-added products, because for white rice, we exported almost 190,000 tons of white rice, compared to 123,000 tons for the same period in 2018. And even for parboiled rice, we did close to 32,000 tons of parboiled rice, compared to the 29,000 tons of parboiled rice in the same period of 2018. So what we're seeing is more activities at the mills, more downstream processing, added value by packaged rice and so on, as against exporting the bulk, the paddy or the bulk rice. You have more packaged products being exported, which augurs well for the industry and of course for the country.
Mr. Hassan, it is these improving numbers as it relates to exports of rice and rice products that is fueling the growing confidence of Guyana's hardworking rice farmers.
The increases in the exports and the value of the export and the type of product that is being exported has resulted, of course, in the responses that the farmers have shown. Increases in production. Of course, we had increased productivity too, so that also matched. This augured well and continues to augur well for farmers, because higher value products being exported means farmers get higher returns for their supplies to the mills, and it trickles down. All the stakeholders who are involved in the industry benefit, of course, from the higher prices that are being paid and the higher valued product that is being exported.
More than 16 million bags of paddy produced nationally this last crop. Guyana's rice farmers have supplied some $40 billion worth of paddy to millers at an average of $2,500 per bag. Gross earnings for 2019 easily rounds out at 80 billion Guyana dollars. Well, that's all the time we have on this week's edition of This Week in Agriculture, a presentation of the Communications Unit, Ministry of Agriculture. This Week in Agriculture is produced for television by Matrix Video Productions and Advertising, based in East Berbice. We will be back next week with another edition of This Week in Agriculture. Until then, I'm Christopher Holder saying so long, be good to yourselves and to each other.